What if the heaviest thing you carry is invisible? What if it sits in your pocket, presses on your chest, and no one else can see it? Today, that weight has a name. It's a single thought that whispers, "You'll fail." Daniel used to outrun that whisper. He woke up early, worked hard. The kind of person who stacked small wins and smiled at strangers. But lately, a shadow slipped into his morning coffee. Before his feet hit the floor, he'd already flinched at the day. He hadn't failed yet, but he rehearsed failure like a script. He'd picture the email he'd mess up, the joke that would land flat, the face someone would make when he got it wrong. Have you ever felt tired before anything even happens? At work, his team planned a pitch. Daniel used to love pitching. This time he felt the room shrink. The thought showed up, quiet, certain. You'll choke. He hadn't spoken yet. His throat was dry anyway. He passed the clicker to a coworker and pretended he preferred to take notes. He stared at the numbers on the slides, and his brain said, "They see through you." He tried the classic fixes: coffee, a run, music loud enough to drown him out. It worked for a song, a mile, a paragraph. Then the whisper returned, heavier than reason, lighter than air. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. On a Wednesday afternoon, Daniel sat across from a psychologist. Sunlight climbed the bookshelves. A plant leaned toward the window like it was listening too. Daniel told the story in careful sentences. He wanted to sound rational. He didn't want to sound afraid. The psychologist listened. No rush. No pen scratching like judgment. When Daniel finished, she opened a drawer and set a small gray stone on the table. Polished, smooth, about the size of an almond. "Carry this in your pocket for 1 week," she said. Daniel blinked. Stone. She smiled. "Left pocket, right pocket, wherever, just keep it with you. Does it do something?" He laughed, half sure this was a trick. Magic. A placebo? A weird joke? "It will remind you," she said. "That's all." "Remind me of what?" He didn't ask. He didn't want to seem clueless on top of everything else. He slipped the stone into his pocket, thanked her, and told himself he would humor the assignment. A week was a week. You can carry a pebble. You've carried worse. What's the smallest change that can shift an entire day? Day 1. Daniel forgot the stone until he sat on the bus. Fabric pressed it into his hip. He felt its round edge through the pocket lining. For a second, he felt silly. Then his mind offered its usual morning gift. Don't mess up. Today's the day they notice. His hand went to the stone. The weight was nothing, really, but the timing snapped him awake. Instead of rolling with the thought, he held the stone and the thought had to sit outside him, looking small and solid. He whispered, "I hear you," under his breath. The woman next to him didn't look up from her podcast. He put the stone back. The whisper didn't vanish. It lost a little authority. A tiny shift. Not a cure. A pause button. At the office, he opened his inbox and braced. The stone nudged his hip again, like a reminder with good manners. He scanned his emails. He replied to 3. He took a few extra seconds to breathe between them. He didn't win a lottery. He didn't become fearless. He just noticed that the thought showed up before the evidence. That mattered. Who would you be if you could answer instead of react? By midweek, he noticed patterns. The thought had favorite times. The first minute of the day, the first second of a task. Whenever someone spoke fast, it showed up when he was hungry. It showed up when he was tired. It showed up when a friend texted, "Call me when you can," and his brain translated, "It's bad." On day 3 at the gym, he set a barbell down and caught his breath. His mind whispered, "You're weak." The stone pressed against his thigh as he bent to wipe the bench. He laughed, actually laughed, out loud. The guy next to him glanced over. Daniel shrugged. Inside joke. He started talking back to the whisper. Short sentences, simple. Maybe. We'll see. Not now. Sometimes, he said, "Thanks," like you'd say to a stranger who handed you a flyer you didn't want. Here's a strange thing. He didn't feel less. He felt more aware of his body, how fear made his shoulders creep up, how his breath went shallow. He noticed he always clenched his jaw in elevators. He noticed he stopped breathing right before he answered the phone. Awareness isn't comfort. It's a light switch in a room you've stumbled through in the dark. One night, he lay in bed and the ceiling became a screen. He watched the worst-case movie, expert director of disasters. The stone rested on the nightstand. He picked it up, the cool surface, a small anchor. "What's one thing I can do right now?" He asked the empty room. He set an alarm for earlier. He wrote 2 bullet points for the morning. He put the stone back. He slept. Isn't it wild how a tiny object can keep you from drowning in a thought you can't touch? By the end of the week, Daniel had a tally in his head. How many times did he catch the whisper? 20, 30, more. The number didn't scare him. It made sense. It fit. If his mind had been practicing this thought for months, of course it was strong. Muscles you train get stronger. Muscles you never stretch get tight. He returned to the psychologist's office with the stone in his pocket and stories in his mouth. He told her how he'd mocked himself at first, then found himself reaching for the stone like a lifeline in crowded rooms. He told her how he'd sold himself short twice less than usual. That wasn't science. It mattered anyway. She listened, the same way. Then she stood. He heard the soft thud of the drawer again, and this time she placed a canvas bag on the carpet. The bag clinked when it landed. She opened it and let him see. Stones. Not polished. Not pretty. Rough. 12, 2 dozen more. Palm-sized, fist-sized. The kind you might skim across a lake if you had hours to spare and something heavy in your chest. "Pick it up," she said. He reached for the handles and hoisted the bag. His hands were strong enough. The weight surprised his wrists. He hugged it to his stomach to keep it from slipping. "Walk to the window," she said. He took a step. The bag swayed, hit his thigh, threw off his balance. 2 more steps. His fingers burned a little. He put the bag down on the rug near the glass. The plant seemed to lean in closer. She stood by the door, watching. "Pick it up again," she said. "Walk back." He did. By the time he reached the chair, the weight wasn't just in his hands. It was in his breath. It was in his back. She nodded toward the bag. "That's not one thought. That's what happens when you carry one thought every day, without question, for a month, a year, a decade. You don't set it down between rooms. You take it to dinner, you take it to bed." He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He chose to breathe. "What would happen," she asked, "if you believed every one of those stones was urgent? If you refused to drop even one?" "I'd get used to it," he said, and heard how bad that sounded. She nodded. "You'd call it normal, until your hands shake and your voice gets small and your life shrinks around the weight. Not because you're weak, because you're human. She walked over and one by one took stones from the bag and set them on the floor. Each landed with a thud. The sound filled the office. This one says, "They'll laugh." This one says, "You're late." This one says, "Remember the time you..." This one says, "Don't try." He felt ridiculous tears sting his eyes when she placed one stone right at his feet and said, "This one says, you don't get to want more." He looked down. It was ordinary, gray, unremarkable. It felt like a brick he'd been using to build a wall around himself. "How do I stop?" he asked. She didn't take a pen out. She didn't draw a diagram. She picked up one stone and dropped it back into the bag. The sound was dull and freeing at once. "You don't stop thoughts from arriving," she said. "You train your mind to release what hurts before it becomes unbearable." She showed him a breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth, longer on the exhale. She asked him to name a thought out loud, as if it were a line in a play. "There's the 'I'll fail' thought." Saying it like that made space. Space turns a prison cell into a hallway. She gave him simple phrases, not mantras to fight with, labels to loosen the knot. Not helpful. "Old story. Thanks, mind." He tried them on. They fit better than slogans. He picked up the bag again. It still weighed what it weighed. He set it down and realized his hands didn't have to stay on the handles. The room hadn't asked him to hold it forever. Why do we grip the things that bruise us, as if letting go would make us disappear? He left with his original stone in his pocket. The small anchor, now a quiet ally. He didn't feel cured. He felt coached. He had homework that wasn't a chore. Pay attention. Breathe. Label. Choose. It sounded tiny. Tiny isn't small when you repeat it. The next days, he made mistakes. He showed up late one morning and the old chorus started before his key touched the door. He touched the stone and said, "Old story." He walked in, apologized, and got to work. He sent a risky email suggesting an idea he'd swallowed last month. He felt the familiar squeeze under his ribs. He breathed. He added a line, "Happy to discuss." Hit send. Walked away. He didn't refresh the inbox every minute. He waited 10. He survived. Micro wins became proof. Not that he was perfect, that he was training. He noticed when a thought tried to recruit him. He noticed when his body tensed like armor. He noticed how easy it was to judge himself for having a thought, as if the thought itself meant something about his worth. He practiced not making a story about the story. He started a small ritual in the morning. Before he checked his phone, he sat on the edge of the bed with the stone in his palm. He asked one question. What's one thing that would make today lighter? Sometimes the answer was practical. Drink water now. Sometimes it was bold. Speak up in the 3 p.m. meeting. Sometimes it was quiet. Forgive yourself for yesterday and go. When does a thought become a habit? When does a habit become a cage? On a Thursday, the pitch his team rescheduled finally happened. The old fear arrived right on time, wearing the same coat. Daniel felt it in his stomach first, then his hands. His thumb found the stone. He named it. There's the "you'll choke" thought. He didn't try to argue. He didn't try to make it pretty. He let it sit next to him, not on him. He spoke. He didn't nail every line, but he stayed. 3 sentences in, the fear was still there, just not driving. He saw a head nod in the second row. He saw his coworker's shoulders drop, relieved. He finished. He sat down. He breathed. The world didn't end. He walked home 15 minutes slower than usual. The city had the same noise as always. Horns, footsteps, a dog barking at nothing serious. He felt lighter, not because the world changed, but because he set down one stone he'd been told to cradle forever. Some nights, the bag metaphor haunted him. He pictured all the times he'd stacked stones into walls, towers, shields. He pictured dropping them one by one. It wasn't dramatic. It was repetitive. He made peace with that. You don't get strong by lifting once. You get strong by lifting, resting, lifting again. He didn't want a miracle. He wanted a practice. He created a tiny habit he could keep on bad days. 3 breaths, 3 words. Breath 1, in. Breath 2, out. Breath 3, slower. 3 words, notice, name, release. Sometimes the release was just loosening his jaw. Sometimes it was sending a text he'd delayed. Sometimes it was deciding not to check a comment thread that would poison his evening. He tracked his wins, not as trophies, but as reminders. He also slid the stone across his desk to other minds. A friend who confessed to the same whisper. A brother who thought he was the only one who felt like an imposter in his own life. He told them the routine, got the same skeptical look, watched the same small shift. There's something human about holding a thing and giving your head a place to rest its fear that isn't your chest. What if we all decided to stop auditioning for a voice that never applauds? Weeks later, Daniel sat with the psychologist again. He told her about the pitch, the ritual, the mornings that still tried to swallow him whole, the nights he let them pass without chewing him up. She listened. He expected the bag again. She didn't reach for it. She nodded toward his pocket. "How heavy is the stone today?" she asked. He rolled it between his fingers. "Light," he said. Then honest. "Some days it's heavier." She grinned. "Good. That means you're paying attention." She reminded him the goal wasn't to never feel the whisper. The goal was to notice sooner and carry less. To recognize when he'd picked up 5 extra stones because a stranger was rude at a grocery store, or because a meeting changed, or because his brain had a free afternoon and went looking for a problem. He laughed, because that sounded exactly like his brain. He left the office lighter than he entered. Not because life promised him only clear skies, but because he knew what to do with a cloud. Let it pass. If it rains, carry an umbrella. He might get wet. He won't drown in a puddle he created. Here's the moment that stuck. He walked into his apartment, keys on the hook, shoes by the door. The small quiet of a place he paid for with hours of work. He put the stone on the dresser and felt an urge to thank it. Not because it was magic, because it had given him a handle. He realized no object would ever do the work for him. The mind must be trained to release what hurts before it becomes unbearable. That training is not a mountain you climb once. It's a path you choose each morning. So here's the question that matters. What are you carrying right now that doesn't belong in your pocket? Maybe your stone has a name. I'm behind. I'm not enough. If I try, I'll fail. You don't have to smash it. You don't have to pretend it isn't real. You just have to stop giving it the only set of keys to your day. If this story nudged something in you, try the simplest version. Find a small stone. Carry it for a week. Every time you feel it, notice what your mind is saying. Name it. Breathe. Decide. And when you can, set down one thought that hurts before it turns into a bag. Tell me what you notice. Tell me what surprised you. And if you want more stories that help you train the most important muscle you have, stick around. There's room here for your stones and for the space you're making by letting them go.